All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Jessica Mokhyber, and I am here again with Jill Shayan from Empire Charter Consultants. And as we've been doing, we are taking reflections and questions from Jill's colleagues and friends who've worked with her over her 27 years in the charter school movement. And today we have questions from Andrea Rogers Barry, who I swear these two are connected at the hip. They must talk a million times a day. So they've worked
We
together.
don't. We
No?
don't. We usually connect like once a day for a long period to go over work and then like once in the afternoon. I didn't hear from Andrea at all over Christmas break.
Shocking. But these two are
Yes.
in each other's brains like you wouldn't believe, and like definitely can anticipate what the other one is going to say. I don't really feel like she needs an introduction, but maybe you can just tell people about how you and
I
Andrew.
would, oh my God. Let me tell you about Andrea Rogers Barry.
Yeah, before we get to her questions, give us the background.
Okay. I met Andrea. She was working at kind of a think tank. She was on a school board, Achievement Academy. It closed down, but it was in Albany. And I was working for SUNY. So I think the first time I spoke with her, she called my phone directly and asked me a question, and I answered it. And she was really quiet. And she's like, I don't know, I've never called her and actually gotten an answer before. So that is when like we met. So part the think tank, and so I leave SUNY and I joined the association who worked with this think tank, and we'd be at like Christmas parties together. And I think the last Christmas party, she was pregnant for her son Kevin, who by the way is now 16. Oh, so I've known her for over 2 decades. Again, everyone I know in the charter school world, like, God bless you, Jess. So she had just had Kevin and she was looking to do some work while she was home. And so she was helping me, like she was researching stuff for services because at that time we had launched Elevate Charter Schools, which was a service provider. And I was running that. So she was like, I'd be like, can you look at this state? Can you do this? So she worked with us as a consultant. Then she wanted to come, we offered her a full-time job. And so she was in the office working on services. And one day, Bill is like, oh, Andrea's really smart. I need her to do policy work. And then she stopped working with me and did policy. But if you remember, we always shared an office because I'm very sorry, because I thought this was off, because services and advocacy go hand in hand. So I could hear her on the phone talking about policy stuff, and she could hear me on the phone with school saying the authorizer asked me to do this. Or so we learned that our jobs complemented each other. And we were really lucky for that because normally you would think of it as two entirely different categories, but she saw the benefit of knowing what schools were struggling with in relation to policy, and I saw how policy was affecting schools. So we were able to cover every school from different perspectives. So schools always knew they could call either one of us. And how often does that happen in a job, right? Well, Andrea's not here, but Jill can answer. Or Jill's not here, but Andrea can absolutely answer this question. And then, of course, we'd be like, hey, so and so asked this. This is the answer I gave. And she could say, we need to add this. Great. So then she would then call. That's how we work together. And then one day we're sitting in the office, our office where nobody came into, right? We had like 10 offices. Yours was across the hall from ours, like not across, like not directly across the hall and one down. Nobody was there. Everybody quit. And
So
Andrea, I think it's me, you, and Jess, or me, you, and Andrea. And Andrea's sitting, remember, so her desk was in the corner, so her back was to me, and then my desk is in the corner, but she randomly flips around and she said, we should quit our jobs.
and I was so sad.
Right? And I said, okay, like I'm with you, like I'm down. Like, what does this do? So I said, what should we name the company? Now remember, we're working talking about opening our own company. And she said, "Do you know what we say all the time?" And I said, "What?" She said, "We always start sentences with, in other words, what we're telling you." So, in other words, advisors was born out of that. I went home that night and I registered it. But also, we did it because how many times had we been like, we're going to quit? We just can't take it anymore. And what happened was we went from Bill to Kyle, back to Bill, and then they were hiring again, right? Was it Bill, Kyle, Bill? Yes. So then they hired Janine.
These are all directors of the association.
Correct. Janine was lovely, right? Had a lot to learn about the charter school world, but they threw that woman into the lion's den,
Mhm.
except for she would ask, I think the issue was she asked too many people for their opinion. And really, she should have just kept it to me, you, and Andrea, because we knew everything in that organization, all the players better than anyone. And she was about to make a decision after I said to her, I can't take on any more work. I used to have 3 people work for me. They've all left. I'm doing all their work and I'm traveling to Connecticut and I'm traveling all over New York. Something's got to give. Like we got to, I don't know if you remember, we were like, we got to hire people for the Albany office. I couldn't take it anymore. Janine had to be brought up on policy stuff. That's Andrea. Patience of Job, that woman. Janine, and I'm sure you remember this, wanted to, we had like one really remaining staff member who worked remotely, but worked for us. And we all felt we couldn't do our job without her, Wendy. And Janine wanted to let Wendy go. For context, we had a few hundred schools in New York. Connecticut had 24 schools and had 5 employees. We were now down to just Andrea and me. That's what we were down to. And we were expected to keep up the same level of work. I turned around, I typed a resignation letter, hit send to Janine. So I turned around in my chair and I said, "Hey, Andrea." And she goes, "What?" I go, "I just resigned." And she goes, "Wait." And she types, and she goes, "Okay, I resigned too." And then we told you we resigned. So that is my relationship with Andrea. We did this work and we went into it with this, I guess, mindset. We can find other jobs. If Empire didn't work, right? I can go work in an office. I am a great office worker, team player, go team, right? She's a policy person. We knew we could find other work if Empire didn't work out. That's our attitude. We didn't get paid. We lived on the money. Like I had 30 days pay coming. I think she had slightly less than that. We didn't get paid for weeks. We had to bring in contracts. And I think a lot of people think we like, you created this business while you were at the association. We actually didn't. We had no clue what we were going to do. All we knew is we wanted out.
We went to your house and had Italian food and sketched it all out after we were done.
Well, so we tell Jess and then we say, "Will you come with us?" At the same time that they were trying to keep her, right? So you met with the guy who took back over after Janine, I think Frank, and they try to convince you to stay. We were just like, "This is what we're doing. We want you if you want us." And you were just like, "F these people, bye." Like,
Best professional decision ever.
correct. And it's like, because you get to a point that you go, unemployment might be better than waking up every day and driving over an hour to come into this building.
And
So
it's
that's
yeah.
the Andrea story. That's
Yeah, you and Andrea are like together unstoppable and always my like the fact that you guys can almost anticipate what the other one is going to say is
same
amazing.
mindset. The exact
Definitely.
same mindset of how is this going to affect students? And again, all the people I still speak with regularly, all the people who are part of Empire, it is the one mindset that is unshakable with all of us. And we should be proud of that. But like, if you knew Andrea separately, like I said about Voika, and you knew me, you'd be like unlikely friends. Hilarious. Like,
And then it
first
just
of all,
worked.
I just also want you to know, and people don't know this, Andrea's hilarious.
Oh, she
And I
is.
know she doesn't mean to be. She'll say something to me and I'll just start laughing. And she's like, but I'm serious. And I know she's serious, which is why it makes it so funny. So, all right, give me my Andrea questions.
Okay. Which era of your career was the most fun? Helping SUNY start the first few rounds of new schools, supporting the massive expansion that occurred after the 2010 cap lift, or coaching schools through the current environment?
The most fun.
Yeah, she's got a really interesting idea of fun.
So,
Because the last one doesn't sound fun, but that's okay. That's just me.
so I'm going to say they're each fun in their own way, but I wouldn't have the knowledge base I had without starting at SUNY. And listen, I don't talk to Bob or see Bob or text Bob, but he was hilarious to work with. Like he's very logical,
We're
and
talking
I
about Bob
appreciate that.
Bellafiore, just for
Yeah,
context.
Bob Elafiore. And he hired me. He had no idea. And like there was this time that we had to do these massive binders, and somebody wanted to help me do them. And so I'm sure if you've not worked in an office, if you want stuff that's 3-hole punch, they sell 3-hole punch paper. And this woman made like 30 copies of something this thick and is like, oh, we can just hole punch them. And Bob walks up to me and goes, please don't quit. Like it was just so random and funny. Every stage of my career has been fun, but there's nothing more fun than pissing everyone off at Empire. Like as an Empire person, this has been the most fun of just saying whatever I want to say, knowing you're going to have a hard time knocking me down from whatever I'm doing. Like, it's been hilarious. I think we can all agree it's been hilarious. You send out news articles and we have 20 texts about the ridiculousness, like the chalk beat one the other day. Dead. I was running when you guys sent me that, right? Eva gives her husband a school. It's like, how is it? Oh, Andrea sent it, but that's
How,
Andrea's humor. And
like,
I read it. I was like,
you're not expecting a headline like that, but we all can find a lot of humor in
it
this.
was very, very funny.
Okay, and Andrea's second question is, what made you laugh harder? The time a rogue board successfully drops a terrible management company without permission, or when a school leader who videos an auditor sleeping on the job? See, she knows your stories.
So I was working for SUNY, and the board chair was Jim Niemeyer, and the school is South Buffalo Charter School. And I worked under Ralph Rossi, who is the general counsel, and I did like the compliancy stuff, so all your board minutes, all that crap. And Jim hated his management company. He was a finance guy. He was a great finance guy. Like Ralph wanted a copy of his management agreement. I can't remember exactly how it played out. And he goes, oh, we dropped them like 18 months ago. And Ralph was furious. Like, I don't mean like a little furious. You can't, we have to give you permission. He's like, no, you did it 18 months ago. Like, what are you going to do? And the school was in a better financial position. And I remember sitting in Ralph's office. I'm like, but we didn't even know. Like, how important was that information? We didn't even know. Nobody noticed it but we had finance people. Nobody noticed it in the budget. They weren't mentioned in the minutes anymore. So years go by. Andrea and I are in Buffalo and we have dinner with Jim Niemeyer and John Sheffield, who is at Charter School of Inquiry. if you're ever going to go out drinking with two charter school people, those would be the people to go out with. And we tell that story. And he's like, why the hell did you need to know? You didn't even notice. But I wasn't with Suni at that time anymore. So that in itself was hilarious. The second one was what?
We need to
Well,
know the school leader who was videotaping an auditor sleeping on the job. We need to know.
so the comptroller's office got the right to come in and audit charter schools. And honestly, it is a bunch of shit. It was a giveaway. It should never happen. It's not like anybody at the comptroller's office understands what happens in a charter school. And they had demands. They needed a room where they could just have like files and a table and electricity. And then you'd have to bring in like these big boxes of files. They have no idea what they're looking for. I want to just be really clear. They have absolutely no idea what they're looking for, these people. So the school had to give up a classroom. They didn't have an office. So they gave up a classroom that they used for push in and pull out to let the guy be in there. And there is an all day video of the guy just sleeping because they had cameras in every room. Like when you went into the school, it says there is a video camera in every hallway, every classroom. And they videotaped him sleeping. And they
That's
wouldn't release it because they were afraid there would be findings. So the guy was there for months. I don't mean like he was there in and out in 2 days and just happened to like fall asleep because he went out with his friends the night before. Dude didn't do anything all day. They have videos of him like countless hours doing nothing on his phone, on his computer, not opening any of the boxes. By the way, surprise, no findings at the school. So they would never release those. I told them they absolutely should, but they did not.
it's crazy. I think if people knew what their tax dollars were going towards, they would die. Die.
I know.
Andrea's third question is so Andrea and so off. Not nothing about chartering, which is fun, but it's just so Andrea. If you were a pioneer in space exploration for new places for humans to live, would you go to live on the moon or to Mars first, and why?
Moonchild. I'm totally a moonchild. I have a card from Andrea and she writes to my favorite moonchild. I am all about the moon where I'm sitting now. So in the morning, I sit on the other side and there's a lake behind my house, but I can see the moon like at four, because I'm up at like 4:30 in the morning. So when you can see the moon, I can see it right from my window. And sometimes there's a full moon and I have like my face smushed against the window. Look at, we're trying to take a perfect picture of it. I am a moon child. I'm always like, oh, look at the moon. If you're with me and I see the moon, I will stop and stare at the moon. Oh, do you know what I made my husband buy me? One of those planet light things that like
Oh,
little kids have in their bedroom. So it shines
yeah,
stars and the planets on your ceiling. I
love it.
made him buy me one and I turn it on with the timer before I go to bed so that I can see the moon and the stars before I go to bed every night.
That was easy. That was an easy question for you. Thank
Moonchild.
Yeah, thank you, Andrea Rogers Barry, and thank you, Jill, for answering the questions.